Hi, good evening. Welcome to another session of WiTalks. I am Jaskiran, and today I will be hosting this conversation with our distinguished guest, Mr. Vishal Sinha. Vishal is the Chief Executive Officer of CWT India. He has 21 years of experience with a proven track record in strategy, innovation, and business development across multiple geographies, while managing large scale travel projects and creating and delivering products that increase profitability, reduce cost to serve, and increase customer retention, and is very well versed with market sizing and due diligence processes in the tourism industry. Welcome, Vishal.
Thanks, Jaskiran. Thank you for the introduction. It's great to be with you.
It's great to be with you. Traveling is one of my favorite things. And, as I mentioned to you earlier, I'm very, very happy that I could, talk to a professional about something that I do as a hobby. So I'm looking forward to this chat.
Brilliant. And one of the main reasons why I got into this profession was because probably I was so passionate about traveling and the other bit was about eating. So they pretty much go hand in hand. It's all about eating, traveling, experiencing, and probably finding out new stuff. So great to be here.
So on that queue, you worked with some great organizations like British Airways, with you, and with CWT now, and you've seen how the industry has grown exponentially. You've worked in multiple geographies. What are some of the key memorable events or moments and learnings that you've had through your experience?
Wow, thanks, Jaskiran. This question always puts a smile on my face because when I think about the last 21 years, there have been so many changes, both from the industry point of view and also personally for me. So, if you talk about the industry has gone through so many changes in the last 21 years. Just think about it. It was not long ago that we actually had to wait for hours to get connected to a travel booker to book our flights or to try and find out which hotels are available or even better, wait for a paper ticket to come to us. We were always on tenterhooks. It all seems to be a thing of the past. Our industry has been in a change mode, and we are. It seems as if we are constantly in a change mode. We're constantly evolving to meet the needs of our end users, both internal and external. I have been fairly fortunate to work in this industry and be able to witness so many changes. Also, been fairly fortunate to work in different countries and cultures, and have had some great learning experiences. However, at times I think I'm not sure if I was lucky to be in Dubai during the Middle East crisis, SARS in Hong Kong, or tsunami in Tokyo, and all these other places where I've actually lived and been in the midst of everything. But with hindsight, they've actually helped me in managing businesses through complex and ambiguous situations. The other thing which I also personally feel that working and living in different places has broadened my horizon. It's also enabled me to look at things from different perspectives. I feel that I am a lot more culturally sensitive and willing to embrace new ideas, which pretty much reflects in the way I manage people or I manage challenges and changes. I'm a very big advocate for encouraging people to try out new things, right? And that's probably the reason why I moved from Delhi to Chennai, Chennai to Dubai, Dubai to Cairo, Cairo to Hong Kong, Hong Kong to Tokyo, and Shanghai and London in between. Now, for me, it's all about trying out new things. Most importantly, failing early and learning for our mistakes. This pretty much is the mantra for a successful organization. If I talk about the last 21 years, right, you have 21 years worth of experience. And probably all my learnings of 21 years were actually put into practice in 2020. 2020 was a combination of pretty much everything. It was a combination of SARS, global financial crisis, tsunami, and add in some more. And as I reflect on 2020, it's hard to imagine a set of more devastating circumstances to navigate, right? It has been tough, and especially for our industry, it has been very tough, largely because of the fact that for good close to 8 to 12 weeks, there were no aircrafts flying, all the airports were closed, all the hotels were closed. There was nothing much which had to be done. But on the other hand, I would be quick to add that it was quite easy to find some silver linings and some key learnings. 2020 for me personally was a year of resilience, perseverance, and character building. So there was a lot of things which we did in 2020, and pretty much I would probably say use all the experiences of the last 20 years which I had to be able to sort of operate in a so-called VUCA environment,
Yeah, so
right?
20 years to kind of survive the 1 year.
Absolutely. And this 1 year feels like 40, right? I feel I have aged a lot more and learned a lot more in this last 1 year, right? It is, and it's still ongoing. I wouldn't say it's ended and it's all over.
So, do you believe that 2020, because of the virus and COVID and lockdowns, has caused irreparable damage to the global tourism industry?
I would not say irreparable, but I would probably say that yes, it has had a damage, and if we keep 2019 as the levels which we would want to achieve, especially for business travel, it's going to take a few more years before we actually get down to the 2019 levels. I strongly believe that there will always be a sustainable market for business travel as we gradually emerge from this crisis, and we are seeing this. If I look at the flight capacity right now out of India, we are pretty much going at a 70-80% capacity, right? And most of the airlines are actually going to be putting in full schedule capacity by the end of Feb. I'm not denying the fact that there will be some business trips that get replaced by virtual meetings, but if you ask me, virtual meetings are not a substitute for face to face interactions. Now, think about it. You're trying to find out new sales opportunities. Would you do it in a virtual meeting? Probably not. You're having a difficult discussion or negotiation. Would you do it in a virtual meeting? Probably not. You're trying to create an innovative environment. Will you be able to do that? No. Or even a fun environment. I don't think virtual meetings would meet everywhere. Now, people talk about virtual tours of the museum. Uh, can you actually see the whole world through your mobile? You probably won't, right? And especially when it comes to business travel, there is no substitute for face-to-face meeting. And we have done a lot of research on this subject. 2 years ago, we actually did a survey where we interviewed close to, let me look at my numbers. We interviewed close to 1,100 business executives. Three-fourths of them responded on the fact that they would prefer a face to face meeting than a technology enabled communication. Out of that, 1 in 4 said that it helps them build stronger and meaningful relationships. 17% said that they would prefer to read people's body language, right? And 15% said that it makes a lot more sense to actually be in a room in front of a person and have a persuasive face to face conversation. We also carried out a research by Oxford Economics, and it actually clearly stated that for every dollar which was spent on business travel, the ROI was close to 12.5. And just a few months ago, we did a global survey of business travelers by a consulting firm called Oliver Wyman. And it
Mhm.
found that three-quarters of people intended to travel back, right, after the pandemic and when the restrictions were removed. If you ask me, right, I haven't traveled for a year now, and I actually feel I am missing something. And trust me, I'm actually missing plain food. Now, how desperate can you get when you start missing plain food, right?
Well,
So
yes.
that is where it is, and it's one element is I want to be there in front of my clients because we have done loads for them. The second, the most important thing is I want to be with my teams, right? We have teams which are in different locations, and I think that bit in terms of bonding, the bits in terms of having fun with your team, and I'm a big advocate of the fact that you work hard and you party harder, right? You really can't really party very well in the virtual world. We have tried doing that. We do raise toasts in the evening at times, but that's not a substitute for a face-to-face interaction. So yes, to answer your question, it has taken a beating, and we have seen a drop in terms of our the trend and the booking patterns. But I think it's a thing of the past. It has to come back, right? Getting back to 2019 levels from a business travel point of view, it's going to take around 3 to 4 years, right? But yes, it would definitely bounce back. And I
Just
probably, sorry, just adding over there, Justin. If you actually look at the bits in terms of leisure travel, we are actually seeing an upswing in leisure travel, right? There are people who are traveling out, and if I remember well, if I when I was reading some of the numbers for the weekend during Christmas and New Year, some of the properties in and around Delhi were going at 100% occupancy, right? So I think officially in India we have declared that COVID is over in 2021.
yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. That does leisure travel look any different to you than the business travel? Because I do feel that people are becoming a little bit more, how should I say, fed up of being stuck at where they are and not being able to enjoy life as they've known. And so, do you see any different trend for the leisure travelers as compared to business?
I think we're seeing a trend in terms of, as you rightly said, Peter, people are a bit fed up of being at home, right? It's more in terms of being out and about. So you have started seeing a bit of a trend in terms of leisure travel increasing, road trips increasing. People in and around Delhi say they would probably trips to, say, a Jaipur or up in the hills is something which is being done by most of the guys. When we introduced flight to Maldives a few months ago, when that opened up, you could see a lot of people in Maldives, right? And we were not fortunate enough, Jaskaran. You were probably enjoying your holidays or your work with all the film stars around. We weren't, but yes, everyone was pretty much in Maldives.
Well, yes, everyone was pretty much here, and I was very similar to you. I was in a lockdown at home, so restrictions were applicable and are still applicable here too. Um, but I'm just thinking aloud right now. A lot of India's GDP relies on that money that we get from travel and tourism. And India is a vast country. We got multiple offerings, be it from a cultural heritage perspective or from a landscape perspective. There are different terrains, different things that one can offer. So you pretty much have something for everyone who wants to come and visit India, be it a foreign traveler or an Indian traveler. you know how much did the pandemic impact the GDP for our country? And do you feel that with the things opening up, with the discussions of vaccine happening, will things change sooner than later?
Look, Jaskaran, as you know, the pandemic has had a severe impact on many industries, and travel is no exception. The very fact that we do not have normal airline schedules when you talk about international routes, right? That does create a challenge in terms of getting tourists to come in. What we would see from a tourism point of view is a lot of focus on domestic tourism, right? So you would see a lot more of Indians traveling in and around India, right, rather than a lot of tourists coming in. And when you talk about business travel, as I mentioned to you earlier, business travel may take several years to recover to, say, 2019 levels. And we in CWT are observing and anticipating a number of changes in our customers' priorities and the behavior of their traveling employees, right? Which, to be fairly honest, which I expected to be the norm, at least for the short to mid term. And we have been adapting and changing our businesses, right? So if you look at how fluid the situation is, travelers are seeking a lot more information prior to traveling. It's all about the bits in terms of entry requirements, quarantine restrictions, or even when was the last time the hotel was cleaned? Is it safe to travel in an aircraft? Now, we are partnering with loads of organizations like International SOS to send out to our clients and their employees regular alerts about developments on ground. These are notifications which are sent out through emails and pushed through applications. Now, this is largely for business travelers when they do need to travel on work and they do need to be in a particular destination. But when it comes to leisure, you would probably take it a bit more easy. right? So from my point of view, you would probably be out and about traveling, within the country rather than venturing out to say Europe or USA. Wherever we are creating air bubbles, there are people who are flying over there, right? But one of the other challenges, you don't know, you can actually go to a place and get stranded over there for 14 days, right? If the flights get canceled, if you look at the example of London right now, right? People went in over there and got stranded for 14 days, or people who came in over here have been stranded for a fairly long period of time. So I think those are the challenges which are there till the time we actually get into the vaccination. The bits in terms of, it's a proven fact that you're fine after you're vaccinated. By when will we vaccinate the whole thing? Do we have health passports? These are all questions which are being asked, and that would ease the bit of travel. But in the foreseeable future, at least in the next 12 to 18 months, I don't see tourism reviving back to the 2019 or 2018 levels, right? As a company, we are doing, sorry, you were saying something.
No, so just one of our viewers just commented, I think, on the same thing that you were saying. Sanjana says that our love to roam, travel, and explore will never leave us. So, virus or no virus, wherever there is an air bubble, we will travel.
Absolutely. Uh, well, it's good to know whenever there's an air bubble, yes, people are traveling, but I think the apprehension is more around the bits in terms of what are the restrictions which are there, right? And how can I not get stranded when I get there, right? So it's more in terms of, there's no point going to Rome and being there for 14 days in a hotel, right? But it's more in terms of being able to explore the place. So I
Yeah.
think that's there. And as a company, what we are looking at doing is we are making sure that we are giving the tools to our clients to enable a smoother a sort of a travel bit, right? As I said, we are deploying technology to make sure that people have all the relevant information where it pertains to the bits in terms of travel restrictions, quarantines, what to expect, what to do, what not to do. These are all things which are being automated and making sure that we are actually providing to our clients. One of the things which I've noticed, Jaskran, and that's a fairly interesting thing. When we talk about evolution, and I spoke about the fact that everything is getting automated, the change which we have seen is that a lot of our clients would still want to speak to our travel counselors. It's more of a reassurance, right? So we are getting a lot more calls, right? Because we are reassuring our customers that it's fine to travel. These are the checks which you need to have in place. These are the documents which you need. So the number of calls have increased. Also, it was a real challenge for us when we actually officially entered into the entire lockdown phase, right? We had 8 weeks of, or 10 weeks, or probably more, of all the offices being closed, right? We actually managed, and that is where I say that 1 year is worth 20 years. We actually managed to set up an entire system where all our travel counselors could work from home. We made sure that we have given them proper connectivity to be able to connect and be able to deliver. Which also gets us to a very interesting point, is the fact that people who had to leave jobs because of various different reasons could actually be re-engaged in that, because they could work as per their own timings, right? It was not a 9 to 5; it could be 10 to 4. You could do the bits in terms of whatever you wanted to do, but log in whenever you want to do. So, and that's where I say I would be very quick to add some silver linings and some learnings which we have had in this period.
I think one thing that everyone learned was to quickly use technology to fill in whatever gap that they could in their life. And I think what I did see was a lot of virtual tours that the people were offering of zoos, of museums that you could just see just because you couldn't visit them physically anymore. I don't think those trends are will ever replace the actual beauty of visiting a museum or going to a zoo and getting excited about seeing those animals there. However, how do you see technology redefining the hospitality industry? And this question has been asked by Amandeep.
So when you talk about redefining the bits in terms of hospitality, one of the things which I would say is technology has to be an enabler, right? So this whole entire concept of you being able to use electronic keys when you actually entered a hotel, It's basically a seamless process. When you're checking in, you can actually check in the minute you land at the airport, and you're given a secure key, and you can check into the hotel. Now, all these things were things which were being planned and were being implemented. It got expedited during this entire crisis period, right? Being able to give in a lot more information to our travelers, right? Being able to automate stuff, being able to provide a platform which gives them access to all the relevant information. We had been thinking about it, right? What has also helped, Jaskiran, and it's not the best example right now, and we still have lots of work to do in this, is every industry. When you talk about tourism, you're talking about airlines, you're talking about hotels, you're talking about ground transportation. All of them were doing a lot of work in silos,
Hmm.
right? What we are trying to do is, now we are trying to get everything together so that there is one platform which gives them relevant information, which gives relevant information to a traveler, right? Which gives him that level of safety and security, right? It's all about me being satisfied about the fact that I'm safe and secure when I'm traveling, right? Now, all the airlines are talking about the fact that, they have HEPA filters on their flights, which filters the air. The air on the aircraft is a lot cleaner than anywhere on the ground, right? They've been talking about it. How do we make sure that we are actually putting all this information together for our travelers to be able to benefit from this? And that's where technology really comes in handy, so that we can actually dip into all these information and make sure that at one click of a button, everyone gets the information which they're looking for. So yes, absolute enabler. And from a business travel point of view, we have started seeing a lot of things being integrated onto our online booking tool, where people would actually get all the information which they're looking for.
Yeah, so with this new normal, where people are getting vaccinated, things are opening up, and like you said, that the business travel will pick up, may not be as good as what it was last in 2019, but you see that the next 3 to 4 years is going to pick up. Is there, do you feel, one of our viewers wants to understand that, do you feel that, businesses could be a little scared because of the liability they may have if one of their employees was to travel and then, you know, probably get infected or have to spend extensive time in quarantine in a foreign location? Do you think that's also kind of holding things back?
I don't think that I would probably call it as a fear. I would probably call it more in terms of duty of care, right? It's a bit in terms of just making sure that your employees are safe, right? That is something which is definitely going to stay. For most of the companies which had evolved business travel programs, that was always one of their key considerations, right? Duty of care. Now, saying that, it's become a lot more right now, right? Because the other thing is that if we are closing down offices, right, a lot of offices are still closed and people are working from home. If the offices are not open for the next 6 months or the next 4 months, there's no reason for you to travel, because you would rather have a virtual meeting rather than going to an office which is closed anyway, right? So yes, that concern is going to be there, right? But and that's where I said that all the sectors have to come in together, all the verticals have to come in together to ensure that we are giving people the confidence, right, that it's safe to travel. And there are proper checks and measures in place. If you look at the fact in terms of people traveling right now, as I said, our aircrafts right now are going with a 70 to 80% seat factor, right? But if you look at our COVID cases, it's coming down big time, largely because there are lots of measures which are there in place to make sure that people are safe, right? So I think yes, that it would be there, right? There would be some concerns. There are some challenges in terms of, making sure that we are giving it the right information, the right checks are in place. uh, the ground transportations or the hotels don't go lax in terms of the measures which they have put in place. But uh, uh, but yes, the concern would be there. It's more in terms of how do we make sure that they are feeling safe and secure. And with the vaccinations coming in, I think it probably the sound of it sounds better, right? The fact that I'm vaccinated, I feel as if I'm safe and secure, and I'm ready to travel, right? So I'm just waiting for that to happen, and I'm ready to go. Not that I
Yes,
would probably travel without the vaccination too.
I think the vaccine has been named very aptly COVID Shield, so you kind
Yes.
of feel protected. And adding on to what you were saying, I've seen that travel with a mandatory PCR test before you board a flight or you land onto a place is kind of becoming a norm. People are getting themselves tested and going on and enjoying their holiday. And I think if you kind of follow the protocol of staying safe while you are at home or at a foreign location, you kind of can manage to keep the virus at bay.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, look, anywhere you can be at home and you can be stupid and you can get the virus, right? It's all about being
Yeah,
a bit more careful too. I think
yeah,
that's the key. You have to be careful. You have to be cautious, right? Vaccination or no vaccination, it's all about just being a bit more careful,
yeah.
right? And sorry.
So if you were to travel today, where would you go?
Wow, there are so many places where I would love to go, and I think it's probably a bit in terms of what would I really like to eat right now. Uh, Tokyo would be my first destination, which I would pick up, largely because I'm a big fan of Japanese food, a big fan of sushi. So that's where I would straight away head. Right, closer home if I have to go somewhere. Maldives, if I would have had a chance, I could have probably been sitting on a beach with you right now and having a drink and doing this interview, which would have been much better than the virtual one. Uh, where else? Probably Europe, right? I don't know where, but yes, any place. You could send me to any destination in Europe. I would love to be there, right?
Well,
I've
just
actually I've missed the European summer, right? When when you really enjoy being there. But yeah, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind getting on an aircraft, right? When people started off, I don't know if you have heard of this or not, but right now in Singapore, there's a real craze about cruise to nowhere. There are cruises which start from Singapore. They are in the sea for 3 days and they come back to Singapore. You don't stop anywhere, you don't go anywhere, and they're going chuckers. They're absolutely full. So a
no,
flight to nowhere would also be my sort of dream flight.
and I've also seen a news article which talked about how people were missing airlines food, and some of the airlines had actually set up like a restaurant thing where they would serve airline food. So something that we all hated and we thought that was the most unappetizing meal that you could ever had has now become like a gourmet factor for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as I was telling you, I'm missing plain food, and I'm definitely missing Indigo's the chicken jungly sandwich.
I'm sure Indigo would love to get that feedback from you.
I'm not the only one. I believe they have loads of customers who miss that.
Yeah. So, what do you feel are the trends that we should watch out for in the coming years from the industry?
I think one thing which you would definitely see, and you mentioned this, Jaskrin, is the bits in terms of technology, right? As to how we actually start using technology a lot more than what we have done in the past, right? That is something which is definitely going to be there. Uh, Probably in the next few months, you would see a lot more of road trips, right? That's something which we are noticing. We're seeing a lot more of road trips which are coming in. Probably the other thing which you would see, and I think if you would have been seeing this in India as a trend when it comes to leisure travel, it was all about the bits in terms of there were a lot of group travels before. That to me is definitely a thing of the past, right?
Mhm.
There would be more smaller tours. There would be more where people are actually looking at uh, offbeat destinations, offbeat travel themes. That is something which is definitely going to happen. When we look at business travel, I think it's all about being a lot more careful in terms of how are you actually spending your travel money, right? Travel budget would be under tremendous pressure in the next few years, right? A lot of companies do see travel as discretionary spend anyway, but I think it's more in terms of being able to understand how does your business benefit by being able to spend in the right for the right business trips. As I mentioned before, a dollar gets you an ROI of 12.5. How do we make sure that we are actually working on that? So there would be a lot more reliance on data, right? The travel managers typically who were working in corporates who were only looking at savings are probably going to be looking at a lot more in terms of the well-being of the employees, right, and duty of care. That would be paramount for me.
And do you feel that the budget that we just heard about, does it? How does it impact the travel industry?
Well, if you look at the budget has actually allocated 18% less amount than what it had to tourism industry as compared to the previous year. So from a tourism point of view, it is not one of the most favorable budgets. The only thing which probably works in the benefit of the tourism business is the focus on infrastructure, the focus on building airports, the focus on building roads. I think that actually helps in terms of people moving around, right? The fact that we are looking at opening up close to 120 airports by the end of 2025 is by itself is a great message when it comes to business and when it comes to small and medium sized businesses. Even the bits in terms of the real focus on the Udan scheme, which the government of India had launched when they were connecting these smaller cities, tier three, tier four cities onto tier one, that has been a massive facilitator for growing the SME business. Right, so those are the bits there. Privatization of Air India could be a good move, right? And they're looking at being able to sell that in the next 3 to 4 months. So that would be fairly good. So yes, if you look about just to spend on the tourism business from the budget point of view hasn't been that great. But if you look at the overall budget with the focus on infrastructure and privatization of Air India, that could actually mean a lot more for the tourism business.
Uh, Vishal, I'm just curious to understand. Every country kind of has a marketing plan of how they pitch their country or their places to the travelers to attract them. And India, from whatever I little that I know of, idly gets pitched as a historical connection. Talking about our heritage. Um, do you feel that there could be an avenue from this marketing mix that we are missing? And I think Priya also wants to understand that what are some of the ideas and strategies that are currently working well for marketing India as a tourist destination.
Look, the whole idea changes. I'll give you a very good example, and this is not related to CWT, but this is related to my previous organization when I was working with TUI. uh, if you look at a destination, Switzerland, right? Switzerland resonates with Indians, right? Largely because of Yash Chopra and his movies, right? Everyone has been in some part of Switzerland, and if you talk about certain destinations, you actually go to mountainous and you would actually get a cup of tea and samosa over there, right? So Switzerland was popularized largely because of Indian movies, but Switzerland actually has a lot more to offer, right? And if you look at the recent few promotions which Switzerland has done in the last couple of years, it's all about adventure sports, it's all about spas, it's all about a sort of a weekend getaway, right? Where you can actually, so the whole concept of holidays changed over there, right? Similarly, in India, we are talking about heritage, but there's a lot more which we can offer. And 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 if you see the way India positions itself in all the meetings, in terms of all the exhibitions, there's a change perception. So it's not only about heritage, it's all about road trips, it's all about food, it's all about the adventure element of it, right? But I think we still have a lot of work to be done, right? I don't think, even if you think about it, and I'll, but if it would be good to get some comments from your from the audience too. But I don't think we market India very well domestically also. There are so many destinations which you don't even know, right? And we get to see some pictures and we see our friends traveling. That's when you realize that there are some hidden gems which we haven't discovered. So we are not very good with our marketing, and I think that strategy definitely needs to change.
Yeah, and I completely agree. There are a lot of places that I have only seen pictures of or heard about, but probably would have no idea, how and what to do and how to get there and what to do when I reach there. So, yes, I think even though every state kind of runs their own campaign to attract people to come and visit, but the little known gems need to be kind of promoted on their own independently and attract more people. And I think, yes, in today's world, weekend getaways are a bigger, market size as compared to doing a summer holiday or a winter holiday break that you would get.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? One of the things which I have noticed, and I'm sure a lot of people would have noticed, that working from home is great because it gives you some time to follow your passion. but it also has meant that you're working much longer hours, right?
Mm.
Because you have the flexibility of getting onto a call at 6 in the morning or 10 in the evening, right? But we have been managing to do that because we have been finding time to probably spend time on our passions too. And I think that has been great. Also, the bits in terms of we have all realized that it's really important to be out and about, right? That is something which is really, really important. So even that bit in terms of a breather for 2 days is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. And as a career, if there are audience there who would want to understand, if I'm like, for me, I'm passionate about travel. If I was to convert that into a career and work in that industry, what are some of the key skill sets or degrees or diplomas that I would need to have under my belt to kind of take this on?
I would park all the degrees and diplomas on one side, Jaskiran. The only thing which you need when when you walk into the travel business is the bits in terms of the right kind of an attitude and an aptitude, right? It's an industry where, as I said, you are constantly learning. It's constantly changing, right? It's an industry where you have loads of fun, right? There are loads of things which you can do. You can be as creative as possible, right? When you we spoke about loads of stuff, technology, we spoke about marketing, right? How do we market a product? We need some great marketeers in this business to come in and actually start presenting things in a different way. But as a business, it's a business which you need to have the love and passion to travel, right? That's the most important thing. And secondly, in terms of, you need to be passionate about speaking to people. This business is all about people and understanding people. If you're someone who hates to travel, who hates to experiment when it comes to food, and you hate to talk to people, you're probably not looking at the right business. This is a business about interacting with people, thinking of new things, and probably being able to sell the same holiday again and again, right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying that because, but at times, yes, that's what you do, right? In terms of just making sure that you're selling a dream, right? And that's what it is. You need to get excited about a particular destination to make sure that the person who's actually going to be buying that holiday buys the same amount of, he gets equally excited by the same thing. So on a serious note, it's all about the passion to be able to deliver par excellence and deliver great service, right? And the ability to sort of work in a completely ambiguous environment at times, right? If you talk about VUCA, right? 2020 was a real VUCA for us, for a lot of industries. But when you talk about the travel industry, it was volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, right? And that's what we were managing throughout 2020.
No, you're right. And I think travel to me is always like selling a dream. It's in your head, it's matching the expectation of what you've always dreamt that you will experience. And then if it doesn't match what you had dreamt of, then it doesn't really count. So, yes, it's almost selling a dream to a person. So,
Absolutely, absolutely.
Vishal, you worked in a lot of geographies and you've kind of seen the travel industry in and out. And from what I know, there are a lot of cultural nuances when it comes to tourism. So things that probably the larger audience doesn't know of about a place or its culture. So could you share some of those things with us that you've experienced?
Loads, and I don't think I can probably talk about a zillion things in terms of a culture and how people behave, but I'll probably talk about two. One, not cultural differences, but how you sort of learn things. 21 years ago, I just moved into Chennai, and I was a lot younger, and it was my first job out of Delhi, and you know I moved into an apartment, and I was there, and 6 o'clock in the morning, the watchman rang the bell, and he said, "Pal," and I said, "No, Vishal," and I closed the door. The next day, the same thing happened, and it happened for 6 days, right? At 6 o'clock in the morning, he would ring the bell and say, "Pal," and I would say, "Vishal," and that was the end of the conversation. I think Saturday or Sunday, I met one of my neighbors, and he said, "Have you all settled in?" I said, "Yes, I've settled in, but can you just explain to the watchman that my name is Vishal, not Pal?" And he looked at me pretty blankly, and he said, "No, he's asking you whether you want milk or not." Right? So then I realized that Pal actually in Tamil means milk. So So it's all about understanding certain things, probably asking questions. If you look at Japan, and Japan is a classic example as to how they look at every single detail when you're actually working in that country. So Japan, as you know, is a land of earthquakes. You have very frequent earthquakes. So when you actually go into an office, right, into a client's office, the way they make you sit is uh, you're sitting inside, right? So when you walk into the conference room, you look at the door and you sit on the inner side of the door, and they always sit on the exit. And you would wonder why. And I asked someone, I said, why are you guys so particular about this sort of a seating arrangement? And their logic was brilliant, because they said, we know where the fire exits are because we are from this office. So we would be the first one to get out and lead the way out, so that you know exactly where to go. Because if you're sitting on the exit and you don't know the office well, how would you lead the other people? Simple
That's
things,
brilliant.
right? So it's just about the fact that you find it painful when you get in over there about this all this seating arrangements, right? But there's a real logic behind it, right, in terms of how they manage that. How they serve drinks, right? So it's basically, in Korea they actually say that you don't pour your own drink, because that means you're very lonely. When you're with friends, there should be someone else who should be pouring your drink, not you yourself, right? And it's supposed to be very rude if you actually pour the drink yourself, right? That means that you are a loner and you're not bothered about the company which you're sort of keeping. But again, as I said, there are so many things, Jaskaran, which you learn, and for me, it's been a massive learning. It's been where you actually one is the element of being culturally sensitive, right? But the other most important element is that you also become a lot more patient, right, in terms of being able to understand what the person is trying to say. Or there could be a very different reason as to why he's explaining that thing to you. So probably being able to look at different perspectives, right? I think that has been my forte now, when I probably try and look at different perspectives in terms of what the person is saying.
And did you ever notice that there were any peculiar trends in holidaying in these countries?
So Japan, again, Japan is a classic example where there are 3 weekends, right? There are 3 long weekends where they have probably close to around 4 or 5 days when the entire country shuts down, right? And it is very funny that everyone will fly out on those 5 days. They will go on the day when the holiday starts and come back on the day when the holiday ends. Logical, right? But they would actually spend 200 times more than what they would have spent if they would have taken a holiday 2 days before. I could never understand that, right? It was supposed to be the golden week, but everything was packed during golden week, and you would land up paying a lot more than what you would normally pay, right? uh, but yes, but that is there. In terms of trends, in terms of holidays, I think by and large most of the country are fairly adventurous, right? And most of them are like us. We go to Italy when we are sitting in India, we are ordering Italian food and we are ordering all kinds of pizzas. The minute you go to Italy, you actually long for Indian, right? And you say, can I get some Indian food over here? And Italy doesn't have great Indian restaurants. They'll obviously, yes, they won't. But similarly with the Chinese, similarly with the Japanese, right? You would see them going out to different. They would try and experiment everything back in Japan. The minute they step out of Japan, it's the bit in terms of to go for Japanese food, which I have never been able to understand.
Well, yeah, I think I'm with you on that one. So, Vishal, with your entire experience of traveling and your work, is there any country that you feel that their marketing for the tourism sector is brilliant, and then you would want India to kind of get inspired by it?
I would probably say Singapore.
Hmm.
Right? Singapore really markets themselves really well, extremely well, and closely followed by Dubai, right? Probably it's the proximity to India, right? Probably, but if you look at Dubai and Singapore, they market themselves extremely well, but also they have been able to provide an infrastructure, right? So I think these two countries do an exceptionally good job when it comes to marketing the destination.
Okay, excellent. And any tips that you would want to share with the other industry colleagues of yours of how travel and tourism in India can probably grow leaps and bounds?
Well, one is the bits in terms of, I would probably say that one of the areas where we all need to focus on is a bit in terms of attention to detail, right? If you go to any of the other countries, there when it comes to tourism, there's a bit in terms of attention to detail, in terms of making sure that they're taking care of small things. That is something which definitely needs to work in India, right? Where we probably have to get away with a bit of our chaltai attitude and say, okay, fine, you know what, it needs to be done and it needs to be done in this particular way, right? That would really help. And secondly is the fact that we probably need to explore the country ourselves, right? I am very ashamed to say this, but I've been all around the world, but I have probably explored only 30 to 40% of India, and that's something which I really think I'm missing out on. So for us to be able to promote tourism, the first and the foremost thing which we need to do is we need to travel ourselves, right? Japan does extremely well with tourism because 90% of the people actually travel within Japan, and these are the Japanese guys, right? So that's something which we definitely need to be able to do, is to make sure that we are traveling within the country.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think everybody who's been a part of this conversation with us today would probably be thinking of, where can they travel next and already making plans. Maybe it's a weekend, maybe it's a long stay. And everybody
Absolutely.
will probably get inspired. And Vishal, you're more than welcome to come to Maldives anytime that you want to. I would
Done.
love to share the beach
Absolutely.
with you.
Thank you very much. We'll definitely love to do that. And you know what? I haven't been to Maldives at all. So that has been on my list of destinations.
I
Bucket
think,
list.
I think, I think with the air bubble now open, that is the place that you need to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I've quickly going to scan through the comments. I think I've pretty much covered all the comments and questions that the audience had to ask. So if somebody wants to ask Vishal something, now is the time. I think I've kind of covered all of the queries while we were having a conversation. And I think I enjoyed immensely talking to you, Vishal. It didn't seem like that we've been talking for a long time and, was more like an interview. I think I loved listening to your experiences and the fact that, the topic was very close to my heart. So thank you so much for taking time out and talking to us. And on behalf of everybody who had joined and with Ace, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Thank you very much, Tusker. It was a pleasure speaking to you, and thank you very much for inviting me over here. So thanks a ton.
Pleasure's all ours. Thank you so much,
Thank
Vishal.
you. Thank you.